let's get to the bottom of the rabbit hole for everybody, for all the women on board, and for the other people that, because I noticed some relatives of mine were slipping into this, and it's hard because the paradigm has shifted where, you know, 50, 100 years ago, like our best and brightest men were on the front lines fighting wars, and they were, they sacrificed their lives, and they were like the strongest of the group, and they were leaders, and they were heroes, and they go out and get it done, right? So back then, you could trust, if they were a veteran, you could trust them higher positions of authority and power, whatnot. But in more recent years, the people going in the military aren't our best and brightest. In fact, they're, a lot of times they're people that just couldn't make it in society, and or they had an alternative lifestyle, um, and they joined the military because they needed money, and then that military experience gave them clearance to get into some other higher up position in life, right? Because of course they get priority to veterans when they're hiring at jobs. So, and it's hard because to bridge the span is because back then you could trust all of them because they were doing the right thing, they're heroes. Now they got ulterior motives, and if you notice, we're kind of like, the United States of it's not real, and this is thing is masked in the anti-Semitism battle and all that other thing, where they're fighting against like eugenics and supremacy and that other sort of stuff. Is they're trying to hide it, and they're trying to keep the public dumb, like they're trying to keep people stupid, because if you think about it, slaves escaped Egypt. The Israeli slaves escaped Egypt, and then a few of them, however many percentage, escaped the Holocaust. So they have like a really small gene pool compared to the rest. And there was only, initially only 12 tribes, and they had really poor like breeding practices, taking multiple wives or marrying sisters or daughters or whatnot. So there's a lot of inbreeding going on, which is the opposite of eugenics, right? And so they're the ones like pulling the strings, the puppets in the government, and they don't want to promote eugenics. They don't want to promote gene studies or studies on DNA, haplogroups, heredity, you know, uh, um, diseases that are passed on um, through genetic lineage, things like that. They don't want to concentrate on those things because it might, like it's not real. Like genetic testing isn't allowed because they don't want people to know who they're related to or what kind of genome they have. And this in the United States is manifest as where we have the oversight committee, basically loss prevention or damage control is the psychologist, the government psychologist. And so they're trying to convince everybody, everyone love everybody, and everyone stay calm and passive, and don't question what we're telling you, don't question authority. And you might even have someone in your life that's like, a tech bro or an influencer, some other government person, somebody aligned with like HR, publicity, marketing, things like that, that kind of has to answer to these political higher ups. And they're going to tell you, they might even have a therapist themselves. And they're going to tell you that anybody speaking about that sort of thing is not well in the head, right? Anybody that's into eugenics or cloning people or, whatever, heart transplants or uh, cyber implants or whatever, whoever's into that is bad, and it you just kind of got to trust the process, right? But we know because of who's there, you can't trust the process, and that's the thing is like even my mom is like fooled by it, and she still thinks I don't believe that the government's after people. They wouldn't spend all that time. It's like you don't understand how scared they are to lose control. Just think of it like you're the smallest guy, smallest group in the world, right? The least armed, the least diverse genetics, the weakest, least populated group in the world. You've been kicked out everywhere. You're cornered. You have a gun. Are you going to tell everybody the truth about how many bullets you have in the chamber? You know what I mean? Are you going to tell? Are you going to tell people the truth about how many people you have to back it up? No, you're going to create scare tactics or whatever, and you're going to create this network of people that are going to gaslight anyone that might say, "Oh, the government's against me." But to say the government's against me just basically says the degenerates are trying to control the things I say because they're afraid of information getting out that would condemn their genetic lineage, right? So that's where a lot of people, and because of women, see, women don't comprehend kind of certain elements of men, because women will just they're like a commodity. They'll go to whoever wins the war. Like men can fight back and forth, men can fight over money or land or property, and women will just go to whoever has the most money. Like there is no, but for men, it's like a chess game. Like how do I get so much that it'll be attractable to build a community of people and have like an army and then be larger than this person, but then like not being exploited or extorted by the people and being controlled the people and all this other stuff. And so And if you don't work for the government, if you're not like supporting and helping degenerates, then women see you as like arrogant and smarty pants, but also like they think that the government, who are actually the degenerates, are the ones that they should be listening to. So they think if you're against the government and you fear that the government's after you, that there must be something wrong with you. But the truth is the women have been brainwashed by the government to believe them and not believe the little guy. You know what I mean? Like they spend so much time on gaslighting and silencing people and keeping certain people down and letting only certain people speak, to the point where women are convinced, oh well, this person has the most money, they're the most successful, they probably work the hardest, or they're the smartest, and that's how they got to this position. No, they're a consortium, a group of degenerates that are all hoarding the power together because they're afraid of what happened when the supremacists take over. So women are getting secondhand information from people, advisors, their friends, especially since the government's controlled by blackmail. A lot of the There's a lot of alphabet community, the LGBTQ kind of spies and work as liaisons between the government and the people in psychology and people in therapy and people in social media and people, and they're trying to protect degenerates too. And so they'll tell women, oh, that guy's just crazy, he thinks the government's after him. But the truth is that guy knows everything, and he's trying to protect you from getting wrapped in up in getting human trafficked by the degenerates and the bad people that have taken over the government. And the women still won't listen. They're totally convinced that the people in charge are good people and they're not doing the wrong thing, but they're totally wrong. It's totally opposite of the way it should be. That's why the whole world's on fire and like World War III. I'm sorry to say it, women, but you are wrong this time. Enjoy the truth.